Hey, how's it going, guys? TND coming back at you. When I first started playing D2 back in Season of Arrivals, I was coming from mostly a traditional MMO background. My preferred role back in the day was healer, baby, and this led me to picking Warlock as my main class originally, as the old Middletree Dawnblade Solar subclass offered about as close to as the old school MMO healer fantasy as any subclass in the game. With the launch of Solar 3.0 and Season of the Haunted, I think a lot of us Warlock mains were anticipating an emphasis on healing in the overall redesign, which makes it all the more ironic that what we got instead was one of the best DPS subclasses in all of PvE. The core of this build centers around Starfire Protocol, a D2 vanilla exotic that had you asked me a year ago what it does, I would have said, no idea, it's sitting in my vault gathering dust at the moment. Its exotic trait is Fusion Harness. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. The gameplay loop here is pretty simple. Pop your well or an empowering rift and then spam fusion grenades. When those run out, hit enemies with a high rate of fire weapon or a damage over time weapon in order to refill your grenade charge and spam off cooldown. But this is all stuff that you could do back before Solar 3.0. The big difference here is the newest aspect, Touch of Flame, which enhances the effects of several different grenades. The effect it has on fusion grenades is fairly straightforward. Now they just explode twice. Seems a little underwhelming on paper, but in practice, these grenades hit like an absolute truck now, melting even the beefiest majors at higher difficulty tiers. There are very few enemies in the game outside of raid and dungeon bosses that even have a shot at surviving two of these things right in the face, so an exotic that allows you to spam these even more sounds like a win-win. But the exotic perk also hints at one of the major drawbacks to running this gameplay style, that being survivability. For a subclass that was previously built around healing, sitting in an empowering rift while you plunk away at enemies to refill your grenades tends to leave you a bit more than a little exposed, particularly in higher level activities. Now before you type get good or skill issue in the comments, don't try and get one over on me. Hands off the keyboard, Chris, let me explain. You see, going back to that MMO mindset, I always like to think of builds in the macro sense to be similar to security systems. The more failsafes and emergency buttons you have at your disposal to work with, the more likely you are to survive in higher level content. When I watch the very best players play this game, I tend to notice two things. One is they have an almost sixth sense about them in regards to staying alive. Survivability in and of itself is a skill, no doubt about it. But the second thing I notice, they are always moving. Whether on mouse and keyboard or controller, their guardian truly becomes an extension of themselves. So with all that out of the way, here it is. I have for you here what I believe is the pinnacle of Starfire Warlock builds. A build that both the bluest of blueberries and the chaddest of chads can make great use of. Make sure to stick around to the very end because there's a bit of flexibility here if you want to get into some really advanced tech. Let's start out with our subclass. Well of Radiance is the best PvE super in the entire game, and frankly it isn't close. Enjoy it while it lasts. I heard that Salt guy's got his nerf eyes locked on it now the divinity's gone. For your class ability we have Empowering Rift, right? Nope. Phoenix Dive, baby. Dive to the ground and create a burst of solar light that cures nearby allies. Now, Cure is a 3.0 term, which essentially gives you an immediate burst heal, usually close to, if not your full health bar. Remember those emergency buttons I was talking about before? I cannot tell you how nice it is to have a burst heal in your back pocket at all times, especially when paired with our other aspect, Icarus Dash. Now, I have my class ability and Icarus Dash bound to the same button on my Scuff Reflex controller, so there's a bit of a learning curve comboing your dash into your dive more frequently, but the movement here is just so satisfying. Even in situations where I feel cornered, I never feel overwhelmed, as the heal from the Phoenix Dive allows me to retreat to cover much more easily. Just give it a try, okay? And let me know what you think after in the comments. Sorry to Colonel Mustang, but we will be using Celestial Fire for our melee, as well as the star of our show, the Fusion Grenade. We have 4 fragment slots to work with, and honestly, there are a lot of viable ones here to choose from. Starting with Ember of Torches to make us and nearby allies radiant when hitting enemies with our powered melee. Radiant is a 25% global damage buff, and it's super helpful to have ticking while you're running around killing things. We'll be using an incandescent weapon with this build, so the combo of Echo of Char to spread Scorch on ignitions, as well as Ember of Ashes to apply more Scorch stacks in general, will result in a lot of dudes catching on fire out there. Finally, we have Ember of Benevolence, which grants us increased ability regen when we apply Restoration, Radiant, or Cure effects to allies. This pairs perfectly with both Phoenix Dash and Ember of Torches, helping us make up for some of that lost grenade regen from not using Empowering Rift. Onto our weapons and armor, and we gotta start with Wither Horde here, which is damn near mandatory to make this whole thing work. This exotic is a wholly unique type of crowd control weapon that can also stick to large enemies, causing very useful tick damage when paired with Starfire Protocol. This will give you an almost 100% grenade uptime in boss fights. It's amazing. I'm using my trusty crafted Callus mini tool with Incandescent. You can pair this with either Threat Detector for better reload and stability, or Unrelenting for a little extra healing. In our heavy, I have my crafted Cataclysmic with 4th times the charm and Bait and Switch. Bait and Switch is the highest weapon damage perk in the entire game at a staggering 35% after hitting an enemy with all 3 weapons, and this just so happens to pair perfectly perfectly with Weatherhorde given that it has auto-loading. For stats, obviously 100 resilience and 100 discipline, then dump the rest of your stats into recov. If you want to know how to get some sweet high stat armor rolls, or maybe you want to put together one of those sweet triple 100 builds, I do have videos on both of those topics. Check them out in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel too if you're liking my stuff. It's greatly appreciated. For armor, you'll need at least 3 solar pieces of gear. On your helmet, we got Harmonic Siphon for orbs on solar weapon multi-kills, as well as Ashes to Assets for super energy on grenade kills. These 2 mods allow us to get our well back super fast, helping survivability even more. Speaking of healing, we're using Well of Life, which gives you brief heal over time when picking up a solar elemental well. It's not much, I'll be honest, but every little thing helps here. To produce solar wells, we have Explosive Well Maker as well as Elemental Ordnance. Now, it may seem a little redundant to run both of these, but Ordnance only requires a single grenade kill to proc, and because it's a grenade launcher, Witherhorde multi-kills will cause Explosive Well Maker to proc as well. Now to the fun part. On our legs, we have Heal Thyself. While charged with light, grenade final blows heal you and consume 1 stack of charged with light. If you ever thought, man, these fusion grenades hit really hard, but wouldn't it be cool if they also healed me as well? Well, this is exactly the mod for you. Each stack consumed will heal you for 25% of your total health, giving you another safety blanket when things get too heated. Since hitting almost anything with your grenades will result in a kill, this mod helps out a ton here. We'll be pairing this with Elemental Charge, giving us 2 stacks of charge with light every time we pick up a solar well, as well as Double Bomber on our class item to give us even more grenade energy when we do our Phoenix Dive, on top of Ember of Benevolence. You also may have noticed this build uses no seasonal artifact mods, meaning this setup will work all the way through the Lightfall expansion and beyond. Now, there's really 2 gameplay styles in one with this loadout. First is your boss melt style. Pop your well, hit the boss with Witherhorde, then spam grenades and bait and switch until the boss is dead. The second one is this constantly moving firing squad, launching blights and fusion grenades every which way, always having that Phoenix Dive and Icarus Dash ready to go when things start to go sideways. It's a super fun way to play the game when doing playlist content that also scales extremely well to higher end activities. I completed the solo Legend Seraph Shield mission with this build, and I gotta say, outside of the boss room getting a little bit hectic, I found this to be exactly what I hoped for when it comes to helping me stay alive when things get tough. Oh, and by the way, for you advanced players, I didn't forget about you guys. If you want to run Heat Rises instead of Icarus Dash, well, when this aspect is active and you get a grenade kill right before activating your Phoenix Dive, you know what happens? That's right, Restoration ×2. That's gonna be a skill issue for me, but I don't know. Try it out for yourself. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments. I'm not gonna lie to you, this has kind of become my walking around loadout for like 95% of the time I'm on my Warlock this season. I think it's extremely powerful, and I can absolutely see myself bringing this into the Lightfall Legendary campaign, as well as the next Day 1 raid race. I'll leave a dim link below for you guys to try it out yourself. Please let me know what you'd add or subtract from it. I'd love to know how you guys are running this. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to catch all of my latest Destiny 2 content, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Happy hunting, Guardians.